Alright, hello and welcome to my mini video presentation on Alzheimer's disease. My name is Manish Rajlapati. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so starting off with a simple question. What exactly is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a version of dementia that results in irregular behavior and excessive memory loss. Symptoms usually develop slowly and get worse over time, becoming severe enough to interfere with daily tasks. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia, a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities serious enough to interfere with daily life. Alzheimer's disease accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. As stated by a member of the Alzheimer's Association, eventually, Alzheimer's kills, but not before it takes everything possible away from you. So how is this important? Well, in 2016, it was found that over 2 million deaths had occurred solely from dementia, putting Alzheimer's disease as one of the top 5 global causes of death. Many mistaken simple memory loss with age, but Alzheimer's is a fatal disease that is not a normal part of aging. It is a disease that gets worse with time, and its effects magnify themselves significantly after the age of 65. For example, if a person loses the ability to carry on a basic conversation, remember their year, their family, dear ones, and even their own name, they could be suffering from this fatal disease. It is not an old age disease, as there are 200,000 Americans with early onset Alzheimer's disease, meaning they obtained the disease before they turned the age of 60. An example of this is seen with Rosita Perez and her mother, who sadly developed the disease. Mrs. Perez had a case of younger onset Alzheimer's disease, being diagnosed at the age of 57. Signs of Mrs. Perez's diminishing memory became increasingly apparent with time. Rosita's mother even lost the basic human function of dressing herself in the morning. As her condition worsened, Mrs. Perez struggled to keep a conversation and even got lost in her own hometown, a place where she had worked for and lived in for over 20 years. Rosita states, "So many times I felt she could recognize me. I could see it in her eyes, but the words to connect danced, unreachable in the air." Rosita goes on and mentions the hardships of Alzheimer's created for her family, and her entire family having to step up to care for her mother's deteriorating state. Unfortunately, like Rosita's family, many had to learn the hard way that Alzheimer's disease is still uncurable to this day. Since the late 1900s, many theories have arisen about possible factors that could be linked with the disease. These include aluminum, flu shots, other metals, or even artificial sweeteners, but these theories have all been debunked. Scientists have, however, linked age, hereditary, and family history to be the major and unchangeable factors that affect the probability of one contracting the deadly disease. After one reaches the age of 85, the chance of developing the disease is now over 33%. For disease to be genetic, it must be a deterministic or risk gene, and Alzheimer's disease falls under both of these categories. Diabetes, head trauma, and environmental conditions are all also considered impacts on the contraction of this disease. When dealing with a disease as serious and deadly as Alzheimer's, it is best to take notice of signs as early as possible. Some symptoms that people have taken note of are excessive loss of memory, drastic changes in behavior, slurred and delayed speech, loss of sense or loss of time, difficulty in completing basic and routine tasks, poor judgment, and a massive withdrawal from social life. So what actually causes the formation of Alzheimer's disease? Although we don't actually know what happens, many scientists, including the ones at the University of Harvard Stem Cell Institute, have linked Alzheimer's to the hazardous accumulation of amyloid beta proteins and neurofibular tangles. These substances aren't foreign to the body, as tau proteins are actually vital for the body to function. They aid the brain in completing tasks such as cholesterol transportation and protection against free radicals. Free radicals are charged particles that can produce harmful byproducts that damage tissue and cells through oxidative stress. The pathological accumulation of these AB proteins, however, lead to the formation of AB plaques, which block off neurons or nerve cells by covering them up. This leads to the cells losing their connection and excessive memory loss to occur, as seen with Rosita's mother. Hyperphosphorylation can lead to the hazardous buildup of tau proteins or the neurofibular tangles. This causes for the tau proteins present in the brain to increase 3 or 4-fold in molar concentration. During this hyperphosphorylation state, the brain tau is polymerized into paired helical filaments, PHF, and joined with straight filaments to form the neurofibular tangles. These tangles are twisted fibers of protein that build up within neurons, also resulting in excessive memory loss. It is believed that the symptoms of Alzheimer's and causes of the disease don't actually appear until one reaches their late 60s because the amyloid beta plaques between neurons and neurofibular tangles in cells need to build up gradually and slowly over time. As a study from the University of California from 2016 shows, Alzheimer's disease has a risk of becoming a future epidemic, with human lives living longer. The number of people with the disease is currently around 33 million. But, as the data from Ron Brookmeyer, a professor of UCLA, shows, that number is expected to triple to 106.23 million cases by 2050. This means that 1 in every 85 people will be diagnosed. Ron Brookmeyer also suggests that a 1-year delay in the development of the disease is associated with 9 million fewer cases. This means there is desperate needs for a cure. A trending approach is stem cell research, where special undifferentiated cells that can replicate themselves will be used to replace the dying neurons. This research has already been used in smaller animals, such as mice, yielding positive results, but has not yet been approved for humans due to talks about ethical human experimentation and since stem cells actually result in the killing of embryos. Therefore, Ron Brookmeyer is working on creating a model for anti-amyloid beta interventions. This approach has also been taken by other scientists. It involves implementing substances into the body in order to regulate the AB proteins present in the brain. A method for this was shown by the Harvard Stem Cell Institute is inhibiting the enzyme gamma secretase. This is the enzyme needed to generate amyloid beta proteins. Reducing this enzyme will lead to a slowed production in amyloid beta proteins and a decreased risk in plaques forming. Another possible method could be increasing the neurotrophins that tend to the neurons. This could be done by implementing the enzyme furin, which stimulates the production of neurotrophins, and thereby increasing the number of healthy neurons in the body. Scientists wish to continue with these outtakes, but their biggest issue is cost. Brookmeyer states, quote, "With better understanding and tools that we now have, the time is ripe for an investment in research that will help us address this major public health threat," end quote. Once diagnosed with Alzheimer's, your family life fades away, as does your identity and all the memories you've accumulated over your entire lifetime. Currently, Alzheimer's disease is one of the most fatal and common neurodegenerative diseases. However, with the advancements of science and the apparent issue that Alzheimer's disease diagnosis is growing exponentially, the discovery of a cure is only inevitable. Thank you for listening to my mini presentation on Alzheimer's disease.